I'm Mateasa Grant, I'm 25 years old, and at the end of 2013, I found myself homeless. So I was living with my partner, and he began to abuse alcohol, which made his behaviour threatening, which is the reason why I had to leave, and I had nowhere else to go. On the same day I broke up with my ex-partner, I was headhunted to work for a company. It was a nice break, it was a change. I originally stayed with some friends, and whilst I was starting up the new job, and I was hopeful, I was optimistic, I didn't see any reason to be negative. After 2 months, my boss had disappeared and he hadn't paid me. To then not have any home and no job was frightening. I thought about my family as well, because I thought I couldn't even approach them about this situation. I realised that I was going to have to sleep rough. I had no option. I felt like it was out of my control. But actually, what happened to me isn't that unusual. And being young and single means you're even less likely to get the help you need. So I went to the local authority first thing in the morning. I was feeling quite confident that I'd be given the steps to get help. And the guy called me over, said, "So what are you doing here then to get yourself kicked out? What was it you done?" Straight away, I'm on the back foot. I feel defensive. I don't want to tell this guy my story, because if he's laughing at that, where is this help really coming from? So after no help from the council, I found a website for a charity that helps you find accommodation. I was in temporary accommodation for about 2 months. Now I'm privately renting in my own flat, and I have a wicked job. I'm a toy demonstrator. I also do nail art, and I love it. If it wasn't for the help of the charities, the advice or the assistance, I most probably wouldn't be in this position right now. There's so much more I could tell you about my experience. I don't want to go into all the details, but I know I should have been given help, and I needed it, and I didn't get it. Now I want to know if my experience of local authorities is happening a lot and to other people, and if it is, what we can do to make it better.
I needed to speak to someone who knows a lot about homelessness. So I went to meet John Sparks, who runs a homeless charity, Crisis, based in London. I told John my story and asked him whether the lack of help I got from my local authority was normal.
Well, unfortunately, we find that your experience actually is all too common. We send undercover reporters into housing officers, and in our experience, over half of them were sent away with little or no help. And this is the 21st century, and we're finding that people like you are being sent away to sleep on the streets, even when you're clearly incredibly vulnerable.
So what should have happened?
What should happen is, first of all, they should treat you like a human being and treat you with some courtesy. Then they should make an assessment of your needs to establish whether you're what they call priority need. And whether you're priority need or not, they should still provide you with advice and assistance in finding somewhere to stay. And if you are priority need, they should find you somewhere to stay. And what we're finding is all too often those things just aren't happening.
Speaking to John, I realised what happened to me was happening all over the country, that local authorities weren't giving people the help they were supposed to, and it made me angry. I decided to give local authorities a test by pretending to be homeless, to see if this time they'd help me. And I'd capture it all on hidden camera. I was going to be Nikki, an 18-year-old who's broken up with her boyfriend and has run out of couches to sleep on. She hasn't spoken to her parents in months and can't go home because they've told her there's no room for her. If Nikki can't get help from a local authority, she's going to have to sleep rough. By law, Nikki wouldn't be considered a priority, so local authorities wouldn't have to find me somewhere to stay. But they need to properly assess my situation and give useful advice and support. After what John had told me, I wasn't sure I'd get it. I'd like to hope that there's some change since my last visit. It does make me think more about the situation I was in. Obviously, it's not a place I ever want to be again. I visited 5 local authorities across the country, but was treated differently in each place. Some of the people I spoke to seemed like they wanted to help me, but other people could be, well, rude.
From assistant. Well, I would guess so, yeah, because I don't...
You either are homeless or you're not.
Every authority told me I wasn't a priority, that they didn't have to help me. Hearing it over and over was demoralising.
But also because you're a civil person, you're not quite high priority, do you know what I mean?
So basically you're not a priority need for us.
Not all authorities did a proper assessment. One authority found me a place at a night shelter in 20 minutes. Brilliant, right?
That's why I'm asking you to go there, because it's the purpose of the shelter is to prevent people sleeping rough.
Except they hadn't done a proper legally required assessment to find out if that was the best option for me. But at least they found me somewhere to sleep. Only 2 authorities managed that. One started by telling me I wasn't a priority, so there was nothing that they could do.
It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we wouldn't be able to accommodate you tonight.
But in the end, the advisor called a nearby shelter and got me a place, though I felt like I had to guilt trip him into it. One authority deserves a special mention. Not only did I speak with the housing advisor on the phone, even though we were in the same building, but the only advice they gave me was to call an outside organisation for help. The number they gave me to call was wrong. Usually local authorities expected me to do most of the work. And sometimes the advisors didn't know if the charities they were suggesting could help, or even who they were.
I can refer you to something called One Foot Forward, but it is fairly busy. It's a scarce resource and there are a lot of people. And then the old music called Probation, I'm not sure what that is.
Often I was told to go back to my parents' house, even though I had made it clear that that was not an option.
I haven't spoken to my parents for like 3 months.
In the end, none of the local authorities found me anywhere to stay long term. That means, along with my own experiences of homelessness, I've been to 6 local authorities, and wherever I've gone, I just wasn't a priority.
I thought everyone would be considered as a priority in this situation, no?
No, you have to be vulnerable at the end of the day.
After I finished my secret filming, I went back to see John Sparks at Crisis to show him the footage and get his reaction to my treatment.
There's the lack of help, there's a lack of an acknowledgement even that you're having a bad time. I mean, you're 18, you're scared, you're desperate, and there's just no excuse for them to be dismissive of you. And then there's the legal side of it. There's cases where you're not given an assessment. So someone sends you off to a night shelter without knowing whether that's a safe option for a young person like you. Someone tells you to go home without checking that's a safe option for you as well.
Why would you say this is happening then?
First of all, simply poor practice and not acknowledging the situation you're in when you go into the office. Secondly, they're not meeting their legal duty, so the duty to do an assessment and the duty to give advice and assistance. And thirdly, the law itself. I mean, the law is outdated. Frankly, anyone who has nowhere to sleep is vulnerable. So a test of vulnerability is a bit of a nonsense. But there's really no excuse for treating you the way that you were treated. What I really hope is that political leaders see these films, are as shocked as I was, and they do something about it.
I contacted all the local authorities I filmed to let them know about this project. And all were happy for the Local Government Association, who represents all local authorities across the country, to give a statement on what I'd found. The LGA didn't have anything to say about my secret footage, or the lack of help I received, because they don't comment on individual cases, apparently. Instead, they said, councils are working hard to tackle homelessness, but it is being made increasingly difficult by a chronic shortage of affordable housing, a 40% cut to local authorities' central government funding, and a growing demand for help. Their solution would be to build many more homes, particularly affordable homes. In Milton Keynes, the council's problems are having a big impact on charities like the YMCA. They have a hostel in the town, similar to the one that helped me when I really needed it. But Simon, who runs the hostel, told me they're facing closure.
Central government are giving Milton Keynes Council £22 million less this year than they had last year. So that's a 10% cut for Milton Keynes Council in its budget. The big concern for me is at the moment, with funding as it is, the council's only helping about 10% of the people that approach it.
And if you're not here to provide the service and the facility's closed, who's going to pick up the slack?
Nobody. I don't think anybody could pick up the slack. If this facility closes in March, there's 250 people a year that we currently support who will have nowhere to go.
Simon means people like Nathan and JODIE. Talking to them, it was obvious that the YMCA was something they needed badly.
I went to the council at first. They refused to help me because apparently I wasn't not vulnerable. It should be the best place to go. I mean, it's council, they're supposed to help you. Like, if you're homeless, they should help you, but they don't.
And what would you do if the YMCA wasn't here?
I have absolutely no idea. There's not really anything I can do. There's no real options.
There's so many people out on the streets that the council will not help. For me, if it wasn't here, I don't think I'd be alive today. Three months I would have been on the streets if it wasn't for this place. And I'd have nowhere to live for the rest of my life, and I'm 19 years old.
More and more people need help with homelessness. But at the same time, councils and charities have to cope with budget cuts. Simon thinks something has to change, quickly.
So fundamentally, we need a lot more housing. That's going to take a long time to achieve, and in the meantime measures need to be put into place to protect people that currently aren't protected. So young single homeless people need to be recognised as an important group of people, and measures need to be in place to continue supporting them.
After being to the YMCA in Milton Keynes, it is hard to see that there are still young people experiencing the same things as me. You have help or some sort of assisted support, and then that's going to be taken away from you. And these kids are so young, I mean, it's not fair. So it's interesting that Simon said that the YMCA is stretched to the limit, you've got the local authorities stretched to the limit, but both organisations are going to be facing cuts. And when that happens, where are these young people going to go? If the government doesn't change the way that the system's working, these things are just going to keep on happening. Things aren't going to get better.